We have made it here to Salzburg, and so we're gonna see what there is here in the old city of Mozart. Hello and welcome to the PedrozaTravel show, the show where we tell you adventures out there, we just have to find it. We are here inspiring you to travel, and today we have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Salzburg, Austria. If you haven't seen already, last week we talked about the Hellbrunn Palace and we showed you the pavilion from The Sound of Music. If you haven't seen that video, you should definitely go and see that video. And today we're going to talk about the center of Salzburg. So if you're watching this video, you're probably interested in traveling to Salzburg, Austria. I want to give you some quick tips, some things to see, and just enjoy what is Salzburg, Austria. Let's talk about Salzburg, Austria. To do that, I'm going to encourage you to go and first go there. There's multiple ways to get to Salzburg, Austria. It's right on the border between Austria and Germany. So if you're staying in Munich, Germany, you can take the train in from Munich, Germany into downtown Salzburg, Austria, or it's an easy day trip from Vienna, Austria. There are two main railway stations from Vienna, Austria to Salzburg. One is the OBB and the other is the Westbahnhof. We used an app called Omio and we took the Westbahnhof train, and it was pretty easy. You just say that you want to go from Vienna to Salzburg and back on the Omio app, and then it was about 20 euros for the round trip ticket, and they give you a time ticket, so it was pretty easy to go on and off, and the ticket was pre-validated on Omio. Using the bus system in Salzburg, I would say, is a must. Most of Salzburg is a very walkable town, especially the city center that we'll be talking about today. But if you want to get to some of the outside places that I talk about in this video, or like the Hellbrunn Palace that I talked in my previous video, you will definitely want to have a bus pass, or you can try to use a taxi, but taxis are expensive in Austria. So I would just recommend a all-day pass at the main train and bus station in Salzburg, the downtown central train station. You can just go to any one of the ticket machines and get a pass. The machines are in English and in German and in French, so you can change the language on them. It's easy there. You just say that you want an all-day Salzburg ticket. If you get it there, I think it's like $6 US. It's not that bad. I will say this, there are different types of tickets in Salzburg. So if you're getting a public transportation ticket, there are time tickets for a half an hour, 1 hour, 75 minutes, and then there's an all-day pass. I would recommend the all-day pass. The reason being is if you get one of those time tickets, you need to validate the ticket. That means just because you bought your little ticket doesn't mean that it's activated. You have to, when you go on to your first bus or your first train, you will have to put that in a little yellow validator machine, and it will stamp it with the date. Then that's when your time starts. But if you're like me and got an all-day pass, it's only good for a set amount of time anyway, so you don't have to validate. And I liked it because I didn't have to worry that I had the right type of train ticket or the right type of bus ticket. It was all validated on that one ticket beforehand. It was a set time, and my ticket actually said from this time to this time, which was a 24-hour period, that my ticket was validated. So I would recommend the one-day Salzburg ticket. So that being said, Salzburg means salt, and Salz means salt, and Berg means river. And so Salzburg is the city on the river. And I would recommend that the first thing that you do is you open up your Google map and look for the Mozart Bridge, named after the famous composer and musician. And we'll talk about many other things that Mozart did, because this is the city. Salzburg is the city of Mozart. He was born in Mozart, and we'll get into his history in a second there. But go to the Mozart Bridge. It is a pedestrian bridge. It's a very small bridge in Salzburg, but it's a very important bridge. And I'm going to start there at the Mozart Bridge for this, because that's kind of the whole history on that bridge, is how Salzburg, Austria started. So the first thing that you're going to see when you go to this Mozart Bridge is you're going to see a little store, like they're going to sell snacks and coffee and stuff. That little store that's by the bridge was actually a toll booth back in the day. Because like I said, Salzburg means the salt river, and it's not because this river is salty, it's because all the mountains in Salzburg, Austria, are full of salt. And Salzburg, the city, was strategically placed right where all the salt mines in Austria were located. And back then, you have to understand, we're talking the Middle Ages. Salzburg was started in the year 798 when it transferred from the old Roman Empire to becoming an archbishopric of the Holy Roman Empire, which is basically at that time was the Catholic Church. So what happened is in 798, the Catholic Church took over, the Holy Roman Empire took over the church, and the new leader of Salzburg was an archbishop. And so it was very interesting. He was both a prince, because he was the ruler of this town and this region, and he was a bishop, a priesthood leader in the Catholic Church. So he would both rule you as a citizen, and he would also save your soul. He was a very powerful guy. And the Catholic Church really wanted to make sure that they defended Salzburg because of this salt trade. It was very important to them. And so they had guards set up on the river there by this bridge, the Mozart Bridge, and you would pay a tax to move your salt down the river, up or down the river, either way. And Salzburg made lots of money doing this with the salt trade. They controlled all the salt trade in all of Eastern Europe. It was a big operation back then in the medieval times. And because of that, Salzburg became a city hub with a lot of money. And what's interesting about Salzburg to me is Salzburg, because it was ruled by the Catholic Church and not by the Austrian Empire, it was later incorporated back into the Austria, but that was much later. And so since it was part of the Catholic Church center was in Rome, in Italy. And so what you'll see when you go into Salzburg is a lot of the buildings there kind of have a Roman influence to them. One of the main things is probably in residence plots, you'll see that they have a huge palace there, and they have this very interesting ornate fountain, and it has horses, and it's very, if you look at it, it's very Italian. And if you've been to Rome, you'll notice that it copies a very particular fountain that's in Rome. It's kind of like a smaller version of the Four Oceans Monument fountain in Rome, Italy. So it's a very Italian-esque type town in Salzburg. So that might throw you off when you initially go to Salzburg. Like I said before, Salzburg is a very walkable town. You can walk around the middle of Salzburg very easily. If you start at that bridge, go up from that bridge, go up to behind the bridge, behind the toll booth, you'll see the ancient wall. Go up through the wall, past the barriers. It's all walkway past the barriers. It's a pedestrian walkway. And make your way towards the church, and you'll get to what is known as Mozart's Plaza. And at Mozart's Plaza, you are going to see a giant statue of Mozart. Mozart was born in Salzburg, Austria. This is his birth town. What's interesting about Mozart in Salzburg is he grew up there, and he was actually the church's organist for 2 years, a youth, until he was from 16 to 18 years old. He was the organist, and he was probably the most famous organist of Salzburg. And today there's a giant statue. But the funny thing about this statue to me is Mozart did not like Salzburg, Austria. He actually did not like the Archbishop of Salzburg. He had some personal quarrels with the Archbishop. The Archbishop, who was, again, he was the ruler of Salzburg, both physically and spiritually, he just took Mozart as just a regular pianist, as a regular organist, and he forced him to only write religious music. That was the only thing that Mozart was allowed to play in Salzburg, was religious music. And if you've heard any of Mozart's music, you know that it was more than just religious music, although he does have some amazing requiems. And so he decided at a very young age that he had to leave Salzburg, and he went to Vienna. And that's really where Mozart became popular, was in Vienna, Austria, not in Salzburg, Austria. But of course, today, Mozart is very famous, and because of that, everyone in Salzburg, Austria celebrates Mozart. What is interesting also about Salzburg is what it doesn't celebrate. If you are like me and you're an American or come from the West, you have probably heard of the movie The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music was filmed in Salzburg, Austria. And as we go on this little tour today, I'm going to show you different sites of where that was filmed, such as Mirabal Gardens and the cemetery. And I'm going to show you the theater where they sang the famous Edelweiss song in the movie. And the funny thing about the Edelweiss song is the Edelweiss song is fake. Most Austrians have never seen the movie The Sound of Music. And all the music in the movie The Sound of Music were made by American composers, and Austrians have never really heard about it. Of course, now, if you go to Salzburg, Austria, you will find that they have the Sound of Music tour, and they will show you all the locations. And there's even some places like at the Hellbrunn Palace where it's marked, like this was the set. But the Sound of Music is not a part of the daily Salzburg life. It's mostly about Mozart, or it's about Bavarian music. Bavarian music is very big in Austria. So let's go on this little tour, and we'll see more sights along the way, and I hope you enjoy this journey. So come along for the adventure.
We are here at Mozartplatz. Mozart is, of course, the hometown hero of Salzburg, known for his legendary music, and he is very much represented in all of Salzburg.
This is the Salzburg Cathedral, which was founded in 774, but really what you see today is the reconstruction from the 1600s. It was, of course, rebuilt after World War II because it was bombed, but this is kind of what it would look like back in the 1600s. The best part of the cathedral is you can pay $5 and go inside and listen to the wonderful music by Mozart, who was, of course, the organist here at the Salzburg Cathedral. This fountain was used to bathe the imperial horses back in the day, and it's kind of interesting. They just walked the horses right into the fountain.
1750, I think. No, 1763.
If there's one thing that Salzburg has a lot of, it's water. It's all over the place in Salzburg. And Salzburg used this water to their advantage. As you can see, there was several working water mills in the city, and they would use these water mills to pump different factories. And this is why Salzburg was one of the first cities in Europe to enter into what was known as the Industrial Age. This little cemetery was actually the inspiration for the movie cemetery in the movie The Sound of Music. In that scene where they had to hide from the Nazis, they hid in the cemetery. This is the cemetery that they would have hidden, but it wasn't actually this cemetery, but it was a reproduction of this cemetery. What's interesting to me about cemeteries in Salzburg is that the land is only good for 7 years. As long as your family pays every 7 years for your land, your body will stay in the cemetery plot. But if nobody pays for your land after 7 years, they will take your body out. And sometimes you'll see new crypts like this in old spaces because the previous tenant got kicked out. The body of Mozart's sister was buried up in one of these caves.
Multiple claims of the oldest restaurant in Europe. This one's claiming it's from 1803. the St. Peter restaurant said that Charlemagne ate here. So another claim contrary to Spain.
This is the tomb of Saint Rupert. Saint Rupert was the first bishop of Salzburg, and he's the person who named Salzburg. He gave it the name.
Here again we have Saint Rupert, and then we have a modern cross. This is all seminary for the Catholic priests that are studying to become priests. So this is a seminary area right here. All the different festival halls.
This walkway goes to University Platz and is known for an outdoor market where the locals like to go and buy fresh vegetables. I liked it because they had pretzels that were bigger than your head. We got there a little bit late for the vegetables, but there was still some there, and there was a lot of nice flowers to see as well.
An old medieval water fountain where been getting spring water for thousands of years. The hole over here is a sundial that tells the time and the day.
Sometimes when you're in Salzburg, you just need to wander through the old alleyways. This particular alleyway went to the main shopping street, which was Gaeta Grassi. Gaeta Grassi is a wonderful street that has these old signs that tell you what every shop is. And my favorite shop was the chocolate shop. So that's what I shopped for at Gaeta Grassi. I got the Mozart balls, which is the traditional chocolate of Salzburg, Austria.
Red chocolates all over Vienna, and those are machine made, the red ones. But the blue ones are handmade chocolates. That's the difference between the two.
This is Mozart's Birthplace. We didn't go inside, but we did take a selfie in front, so that I figured was good enough.
When they were visiting.
These are the steps at the Mirabelle Palace. If you're a Sound of Music fan like I am, you'll call them the Do-Re-Mi steps, but they're really just the steps of the Mirabelle Palace. The Mirabelle Palace is a wonderful place with plenty of gardens. It's so beautiful with the flowers. My favorite part was this dwarf garden. The dwarf garden has these statues of these dwarves, which is also featured in the movie The Sound of Music, and it was a great place just to hang out and breathe in the wonderful aroma of these flowers. This is the Augustiner Brau, which is a beer garden, and you're probably saying to yourself, what are you doing at a beer garden, John? You don't drink beer. And the answer is yes, I don't drink beer. But beer gardens in Austria are not just about the beer. It's also about the social setting. And it is a family place. And so, one, I'll tell you how you get a beer in Austria. I learned that. Basically, you pick up a cup. There's two sizes. You can get big or humongous. You wash out your cup, and then you pay for it. And then you go get your beer. I didn't get a beer. I got what they called a lemonade. Lemonade is the German word for soda. So I got my soda. But the best part about this beer hall is they have all these little food stands inside the beer hall. And they have typical, authentic Austrian dishes. Of course, they have schnitzel, but they have other things too. Like we got this great chicken meal with shredded chicken. It was fun to try out all these little meals, and you don't have to get a full meal. You can just get a portion of a meal. I will say, though, it is all cash, so you have to pay all cash. So we tried different Austrian foods at this beer garden, and then we just hung out in the patio and talked with local Austrians.
My French fries. And then we got pulled chicken, and we got chicken patties with horseradish.
No, sauerkraut. Cabbage.
Yeah.
Fermented cabbage.
This was the best way that we could have ended our day in Salzburg. I mean, just look at this view. at the beautiful Salzburg Mountains. The hills truly sing to you if you listen. It was a great day. I hope you enjoyed this tour of Salzburg, Austria. I think this town is amazing. If you have the opportunity, I would highly suggest that you go to Salzburg, Austria, even if it's just like I did for a day trip. It's amazing what you'll see there. Culturally, you'll be enthralled. And again, you'll just feel the sound of music in the hills. I do believe that you really truly can hear the sound of music in the hills if you listen in Salzburg, Austria. Thank you for coming along with this journey. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next Pedroza Travel adventure.